This is the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Hello, everyone. My name is Corey. I am not joined, as always, by Brendan. Brendan is off doing some real-life stuff, but I am joined by my CHGO colleagues, Cody Delmendo and Ryan Herrera. And gentlemen, for the first time since the opening weekend, we are here to talk about a Cubs series win. Isn't that nice?
Oh, it is. It is. We've talked about just how, I mean, like you mentioned, since opening weekend, and then obviously after that last 11-game stretch, 2-9, it was rough, and that's coming off losing 3 or 4 to the Pirates too, which is just it was a rough last 2.5, 3 weeks. Cubs needed this, especially going on the road out their West Coast trip, San Diego, Arizona. So taking 2 or 3 from the Padres, who look like they're a playoff caliber team. That's obviously huge for the Cubs, and Cubs fans can rejoice for at least one night.
Hell yeah, you said it perfectly, Ryan. We can rejoice for one night. It's just nice to win one, like I said on Monday. It's just nice to win one, man.
There you go.
Whatever. You go into a San Diego, a team that, let's be real, they're at least an NLCS contender, and you go in there after getting your butts kicked by the Dodgers. In the series before that, you get your butts kicked by the White Sox. You go into San Diego, and you completely flip the script. They didn't play bad in all 3 of those games.
Yeah,
sure, the second game, they made mistakes, and that's why they lost. But they had a chance to win that game. They were literally an inch away from winning that game last night.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I was kind of waiting, obviously, to see how this game today played out. But I think what was clear throughout, still some stuff you'd like to see them clean up. They're still running into some outside bases, some defensive miscues. Obviously, you and I, we talked about it. Scott Effross, I think, is owed a nice dinner by the defense, and he pitched out of it, but he deserved none of that inning today. Just a better brand of baseball. Last week, especially that Dodgers series and those games against the White Sox, just not good baseball. Felt kind of lifeless, for much of that week. And even though this series was close, could have gone either way really in some of these games, it just felt like the Cubs played a better series. They deserved this outcome, I think, and nice to see after a pretty rough stretch.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it was kind of night and day. If you look at the Dodger series and then this series, I mean, going into the series, I was just hoping for just some things to be happy about or some things to take away from it, to find positives, kind of like what we were talking about, how this is a transition year, and it's Luke likes to say exploring and all of that nonsense. And it's that series against the Dodgers, there really wasn't anything. And right. You can honestly say the same thing about the series with the White Sox as well. And so to not only get this series, but also win the series against, again, a very good baseball team, it's really encouraging. And I think it'll get some people off the ledge. I'm not saying the Cubs are going to go on to make playoffs or anything like that, but again, I think in pregame I said this team is better than what we had seen. It was the bottom of what we probably would see, and what is it they always say? Water always finds its level or whatever. I feel like what we saw. Ryan, you're laughing. However you're supposed to say it, I don't know. Whatever. Because I'm just so excited that they won this game. But the level of play that the Cubs would find the level. They'll find their level of what they are at some point this year. And I'm not saying the Cubs are going to play like this the rest of the season, but I think a lot of what we saw in these 3 games is what we'll see from the Cubs this year. And, and not to take anything away from them, but the Padres they had a bunch of miscues and didn't take advantage of a bunch of stuff as well. And so it's like that helped the Cubs, and that's why they ended up winning the series. But, I just think that we'll see a lot more of what we saw in these 3 games from the Cubs, at least for the next couple months. And for me, if you care about the future and you care about, certain guys like Zach, or not Zach, but Scott Efros today, he's part of the future, right? What we saw from him was insane. So that's just one example. But I just think that's a little bit of what we saw in these 3 games is what we'll see. I'm not sure if that's going to bring more wins, but at least it'll be more watchable, and we won't look like the Reds or the I can't even say the Pirates. The Pirates
better brand of baseball for sure.
Yeah, that's what we talked about yesterday. Or no, was it yesterday? It was one of the last couple of days, and we were saying how, the last week or so, the games just didn't look very good. The Cubs never really felt like it was a game at all. As soon as they went down a run, it felt like it was over. And there's gonna be a lot of losing this year. Cubs aren't winning a World Series this year, but if they can make every game competitive like these last 3 games, obviously you want a lot of more wins more often than not, but if you can make them all competitive, that helps, Cubs fans, obviously beat writers like me, that helps me get through the season because it's better baseball just overall to watch. So obviously the Cubs did get the win in this one. They kept battling even when they gave up the lead, went out, got 2 more runs and closed things down with a depleted bullpen. But just being able to be in those games and showing a fight and, having a lead late in the game or being close late in the game, that's just a better brand of baseball, like Corey said. And that's going to help us all kind of get through this season, knowing that there's not a whole lot, at least right now, a whole lot to look forward to at the end.
Yeah, and I think you can also tell, you were kind of making the point, Cody, you don't have to look at this series and think oh, they're, going to go on a huge run, we're back in it, whatever, right? Your expectations can be your expectations, but you can tell even just looking at our YouTube chat right now, we're all watching this team. We're all looking for positives. We're all still supporting the boys, and you can tell, it's nice to win some games, win a tough series on the road. And as a lot of people are pointing out in our YouTube comments, they overcame some stuff. And to do that on the road against a good team, you did make some defensive mishaps. You did let the Padres back in this one a couple times today, but ultimately they kept battling, right? Alfonso Rivas comes up clutch. The offense continued to grind those at bats and do what they had to do against some tough guys out of the San Diego bullpen. And so I think the team's got to be feeling good. And for whatever you want to take from it, right? It's just, this was a good series win against a good team. But we don't have to go too much into the, we're doing post game, also series review, a little bit of a hybrid here, but just a reminder, kind of setting the table. It was a 6-0 Cubs win to start the series, 5-4 loss. Last night, Frank Schwindel did, I think, kind of hit a go-ahead grand slam, but it doesn't count that way, so it didn't happen.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, and then 7-5.
The Nick Young gif out there. That made me laugh.
When he hit it, I walked away. I'm yelling, walking away from the TV. And then I hear the call in the background and I'm like, what? Hold on a second. I thought that was in the upper deck. 7-5 final in the finale on Wednesday afternoon, or I guess early evening here in Chicago. Want to start, getting into some of the player specifics with Nico Horner, just to make sure we're on top of that. He leaves the game after colliding with an umpire, which is super annoying. And the latest update I'm seeing, Ryan, I don't know if you saw anything more current, but I think the most current thing I've got is that it's ankle soreness and they have to let the swelling go down before they can really evaluate the severity. He stayed in the game, at least initially, but then ultimately comes out, and you sort of saw the ramifications of that on defense later. The impact of this team without him, especially still waiting for Anderson Simmons, is pretty obvious, right? He's huge on defense, and you literally saw it unfold in this game, that the Cubs are not super prepared, at least defensively, with the way that VR has played, especially on the left side of the infield, and Vargas played today. But to me, the thing that jumped out is just like Nico is having such a good season. He's really showing himself to be capable of taking on that role of being the starting shortstop for the Chicago Cubs. And so obviously, like, the impact to the current team is important, but to me, I just want him to be able to come back soon and not have this affect the way he was developing, because we've seen that before with him and some other Cubs players where they seem to be getting on like that right trajectory. They're developing, they're progressing, and then something derails it. And I'm hoping that this is maybe just a day-to-day thing for Nico.
Yeah, the most recent thing I saw, so Megan Montemurro, Chicago Tribune, tweeted Nico Hoerner has a right ankle sprain. Swelling needs to decrease before the Cubs know severity of injury. Followed up a few minutes later from Ross. Ross says Hoerner might need a couple days off, but that he should be okay. X-rays were negative.
Great.
So that's, a good thing, obviously, to hear coming out of a game. And considering he, stayed in the game, took his at-bat the next half inning, then kind of came out, it was like, okay, so maybe it's not anything that he, like, couldn't even walk after. It didn't feel like anything major at, out of the gate. And then obviously, maybe he obviously has the sprain, but, maybe it's more precaution, like, hey, like, we need to get you off your feet right now. And then, obviously let it go down, let the swelling go down, whatever's there. But like you said, Corey, Nico has played incredibly well. He's been impressive at shortstop, making seemingly every series a jump throw, Jeter-esque style.
That play last night,
right?
yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But him at shortstop, we always talk about how funny it was, us Cubs fans, Cubs writers, anyone saying how the Cubs need to go out and get a shortstop. They need to go out and get Carlos Correa or Trevor Story, someone over the offseason. And Nico comes in here, chip on his shoulder, and he's playing way better than any of us thought he probably could. So that's a loss, not even just defensively. Obviously, he's been swinging the bat as well as anyone else, maybe besides Willson Contreras, but we'll get to that. He's been swinging the bat. The numbers box scores may not look great, but his underlying numbers, his hard hit percentages, exit velocities, all that stuff has looked good over the last few games. So, just the way baseball goes, that's bound to flip as far as those balls that aren't dropping, we're going to start dropping. And now sounds like he's going to need a couple days off. Luckily, they have the off day tomorrow. Maybe he misses the Diamondback series or so, and then can start playing on Monday again when Pittsburgh comes to town. I don't know. I'm sure that will become more clear the next few days, but it's a loss. And you could see, like Corey, you mentioned in the 7th inning, I want to say, just when Scott Effross was on the mound, just kind of what was going on with Nico's, the fill-ins for Nico back there. So you don't want to lose that defense for too long. Cubs got to hope, obviously, that this is nothing more than just a few days off, some rest, get the swelling down, and he can go back out there.
Yeah. This isn't to say that he is better than these other two I'm about to mention, but I did see his tweet the other day that listed, and I don't know why it was B-War, why that person used B-War, but
we're a Fangraphs podcast.
Yeah, but it was the guy listed B-War, but Nico Hoerner had a higher B-War than both Tim Anderson and Javi Baez.
Yeah.
Again, this was like 2 or 3 days ago. I don't know what it is now, but I mean, Nico's been playing well anyway. So I think you can argue that Nico is playing way better defensively than Tim Anderson right now. Offense, obviously, Tim Anderson has a proven track record there. But all that aside, the point of why I'm bringing it up is like that's how good he's been. Like right. he's playing better than two guys who've been in the league for a while and have like made a name for themselves. And he's starting to make a name for himself. And like that's why it's just so unfortunate. It's not even that he got hurt from like another player, is a freaking umpire. Like that literally sums up the 2022 Cup.
I was waiting for this for Cody.
It's just an accident waiting to happen. Like, I feel like that's the Stephen A. Smith. Ryan, you should do the Stephen A. Smith impression and say that, because like, that's literally like, if it's not one thing, it's another. It's like, you get this series win, but Nico is hurt. And hopefully it is just a couple days, whatever. But like, still, like, you don't want him to get hurt because it could affect how he plays when he comes back. Also, he's in rhythm before that injury, right? And it's like, and again, it's frustrating because the stupid umpire won't get out of the way. Like, it is what it is. But and I'm not letting it ruin my mood.
It is frustrating because, obviously all injuries are really out of guys' control, but like you're watching that play and like, the ump isn't like the ump's got to pay attention, man. Like, everybody's trying to do their job, but like Nico's going full tilt. Like it's a very annoying circumstance to have that. And, I think to your point about him getting disrupted, it goes along with what Ryan was saying. Like that's particular. Not only are his numbers already good, and he's showing what he can do on defense. I love that he's doing the hobby thing where he's throwing guys out from the, shallow left field grass. I love that. But I think they talked about it on the marquee broadcast last night that he's really been hitting the ball hard. And as you mentioned, Ryan, not getting results on all of those. But if you are interested in those StatCasts, like expected batting average stats and things like that, he really deserved better. And so that's where I'm particularly frustrated is that, as you said, Ryan, it did feel like some of that was about to start falling and more results were going to start coming on offense. And even if he has to sit out, they're off tomorrow, but even if he sits out just one game, does that disrupt his rhythm a little bit, right? Like, is he feeling a little lingering pain or anything like that in the ankle that sort of disrupts what, like, all of his at-bats recently looked really good, like making really quality contact. And you just hope that doesn't get disrupted. But we were seeing it in the comments too. Like my main thing is just like, let him rest until he's completely healthy, right? Like there is no reason for him to be out there playing through it or anything like that. This is not October. This is not the playoffs. Like, just make sure he comes back 100% so that he can get back to doing what he was doing, which was showing us that he deserves to be the starting shortstop for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah. I agree with everything. I just thought it was kind of funny when you think about all the, ban the shift, all the ban the shift. Well, I'm kind of in the ban the shift group too. Like, I don't love the shift. That wouldn't have happened if Nico was playing shortstop and not on the right side of, shallow right field. Because, I mean, it looked like it just was like the ball went up in the air, the umpire and Nico both kind of just running in the same direction, not even noticing each other and kind of colliding there. So that provides some evidence for all the ban the shift people out there. That's like, you go to court, you go to ban the shift, and you're like, here, exhibit A, Nico and an umpire running into each other and Nico going down for who knows how long now. But yeah, that's, again, just an unfortunate, like Corey, you said, you can't predict injuries or really prevent them, but it's just an unfortunate situation in a game for a guy that was playing about as well as he's ever had as a major leaguer. You just based on the advanced analytics, some of those balls, again, that should have dropped and didn't, you could see that, hey, maybe that's about to start turning. Maybe those balls, the way baseball always evens itself out, is those balls were going to start at some point falling. And now you got to just kind of see how long it is till Nico can come back, go back out, play the solid shortstop that he'd been playing, but also putting the bat on the ball like he had been.
Hopefully Simmons, I mean, he's been there for almost a week. I think Saturday was his first game, so almost a week. Like, I mean, I've been following Tommy Birch for a while, and he's just been tweeting that, he's been tweeting Simmons updates, and he's not really doing much with the bat. That doesn't really surprise anyone. But, I mean, if he misses games, like, I just think that the Cubs need to get him up there. I mean, why not? Like, it can't be any worse than what we saw from Vargas and in VR in that seventh inning. And I mean, thankfully they were able to close out the game strong, and that a lot of credit goes to Rowan Wick for that. Outside of that deep fly out by Will Myers, he was able to get some easy outs. But I just for the sake of saving arms and stuff, whenever errors and stuff like that pile on, it just makes you force your pitchers to throw more pitches than they need to. I mean, Scott Efros threw more pitches than he absolutely needed to in that seventh inning. And now, thankfully they have the off day tomorrow, but if they had to play tomorrow, there's no way they could have used them. And they probably could have used them if they wanted to, if the defense just didn't completely fall apart. And so, yeah, I mean, strictly for defense, I don't see why you wouldn't just go ahead and call Simmons and have him in Arizona by Friday. I mean,
yeah, and that's really we've talked about that really since they signed Simmons. Like, I know people aren't super excited by him. They see the bat. Especially, as we talked about, like early in the season, we didn't know that, Nico was going to be showing this well. And I think people were disappointed in the offseason, whatever. But you do really see the need for quality defensive backups, and Simmons should at least provide that. And it's also something we've talked about a lot. Like, this pitching staff is built for it. The bullpen as well. Like, they're going to get a lot of ground balls now that Wade Miley is back. Kyle Hendricks looking, like vintage Kyle Hendricks in the first game on Monday. Marcus Stroman doing his thing when he's able to get back off the IL. They're going to generate a lot of ground balls. So if Nico is missing any amount of time, and again, the X-ray's negative, the reports sound good, so hopefully it's not a long-term thing. But however long it is, like, you're going to need to clean up what we saw today, because this pitching staff is built primarily on getting ground balls. And if you're not able to convert that, especially with how many short starts we've seen, the toll it's going to take on the pitching staff is going to be pretty obvious. If you have, like Cody said, guys like Scott Efros, I mean, how many outs did he get in that inning today? 8, right? Like, I mean, he legitimately had several outs in that inning, and he got out of it, and the Cubs were still ahead. But that's not good for.
It's the defense was so bad that people were in the comments and being nice to Nick Madrigal. Like, that says it all to me.
That does say it all. But Cody, did you how were your bets looking today? Did you have the Cubs money line on Wednesday?
I'm so happy you asked me, Corey, because yes, I did have Cubs money line. Me and Sean were on CHGO Bets Daily today, and I explained why I was taking Cubs money line this afternoon. And I guess for once I look like a genius, because even though that was a sweat, I placed that bet on PointsBet, and that's the best way to support CHGO is if you download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit. You get a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. You're home for live in-play betting. Just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live NBA same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. Want more? You can also boost your live same-game parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And now online signup is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. I know Luke is not here, guys, but I always say it, if he can do it, everyone here and in the chat can download the PointsBet app and sign up. It's that easy. It really is, especially if Luke can do it. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
I'm not nearly as old, but I'm playing the role of Luke, I guess, today with Brendan out, and we're doing like a hodgepodge here. But also a word from our friends at Strava Craft Coffee. Want to start your day with a competitive edge? Strava CBD coffee is a game changer and has helped thousands of people to improve their overall wellness and quality of life. Strava delivers delicious, fresh roasted specialty coffee infused with organic, broad spectrum CBD. CBD from hemp doesn't make you high or hungry, but it does offer real benefits that can help you feel alert and focused without the jitters. Live your day more balanced with less anxiety and fewer aches and pains. Plus, including CBD in your daily routine can even help you enjoy more restful sleep so you wake up feeling your best. The best part, Strava is all about quality. Everything is small batch, fresh, and shipped straight to your door. Strava offers concentrated full-spectrum CBD tinctures for those looking for a more traditional CBD format with a powerful entourage effect of benefits. CHGO listeners can save 25% off their purchase when you use code CHGO25. That's 25% off your entire order at StravaCraftCoffee.com when you use code CHGO25 at checkout. Discount coupon valid on non-subscription purchases only, 1 per customer. And if you already love Strava, subscribe and save with the Strava Coffee Club. With Strava, you're in control. Save on your favorite coffees and have them automatically delivered to your home or office on your preferred schedule.
Well done.
So it's good stuff. Yeah, it is.
I have some here. We've yet to open it up, but I'm looking forward to trying it.
It's good stuff, and I know.
Luke Luke was talking about how he's done it. Maybe that's been helping him stay awake. He takes something else we'll talk about early morning.
Luke needs Strava, Athletic Greens, all of it.
Yeah, he needs it all.
He's doing these West Coast games, going till 1 a.m. It'll help you out. But next in our agenda here, we have got to talk about our backstop, and that would be Willson Contreras, who is red hot, ladies and gentlemen. When we leave the game on Wednesday, as I'm looking at the live stats, and I am looking at Fangraphs, because as I mentioned, we are an F war
again.
Family.
It was a tweet. It was a tweet, people.
Willson Contreras, if you are looking at WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, 100 being league average, Willson is sitting at a 169 right now,
nice,
which would have him as the 11th best hitter in Major League Baseball. If you are only using WRC plus, which you don't have to, but in terms of offensive production, it's a very useful metric. He's just red hot. Hits an opposite field home run today. Looking at his numbers on the 2022 season, he is now hitting .304 with a .413 on base percentage and a .522 slugging percentage, a .415 weighted on base average, walking at an 11% clip, striking out at just a 17% clip, 4 home runs on the year, 10 RBIs now. Tough to say enough things about.
It was like, you got any more? Because I'm sure there is.
I mean, we can really keep going, but I mean, in terms of his production at the plate, he is having the season of his life right now. Obviously, it's early, and you're going to have to see these things continue. But this is something that, one, I think we all knew Willson had the potential to do, be this type of dominant force at the plate. And we'll never really know for sure, right? But this was the idea when you brought in Yan Gomes, right? So that Willson is not on his feet catching every single game. He had led the league in pitches caught for years by a mile, right? He was catching so much more than anybody else. And you could kind of see that wear him down a little bit. So it's only been, a little over a month with him and Yan Gomes, but Yan Gomes has played a pretty, significant, I think, amount of games for a backup. And I'm just saying, I'm not at all surprised to see Willson thriving on offense as a result.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's I kind of, it's a lot. It's really easy on Baseball Reference or like Fangraphs to kind of cherry pick like dates and stuff. So I went back his three hit day against the Pirates. That was the 21-0 game. This is from that day coming into today, so through last night's game. He'd been hitting 354, 456 on base percentage, 521 slugging for a 977 OPS in that stretch. He had 6 walks and 3 hit by pitches to go along with 9 strikeouts. So that is, he was just incredible. And that's a long stretch of games too.
That's hard to believe considering how bad the offense has been before the series, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and then I want to say in that stretch, his WRC plus was actually at 182. Then his WOBA was .435. I mean, he had incredible stretch, but then just overall this season, his you look at his hard hit percentages, 99th percentile coming into today. Average exit velocity 93.1 miles per hour, 94th percentile coming into today, and then he follows it up with 2 for 3, a home run, a walk. Now he's hitting 304, 413, 522 on the season. He's just, you talk about, contract season, whatever, trying to prove himself, chip on his shoulder, all this stuff. Willson Contreras is having arguably the best season at the plate of his career. He's striking out less than ever. He's taking more walks, or taking walks at a higher rate than ever. His averages, his on-base percentage, his standard stats, advanced stats are all up there. I mean, like you said, Corey, Jan Gomes is definitely helping by giving him that day, as well as the addition of the DH, allowing Willson to get a day off, not having to catch, but keeping his bat in the lineup, giving him that much more consistency. But he's really taking advantage of it, and he's swinging the bat. I'd say he's been the best offensive catcher in baseball this season. And he's swinging the bat as well as anyone. There's probably no one swinging the bat as well as him in the last 2-3 weeks than on the Cubs. So, Willson is just exactly what the Cubs have needed to. I mean, again, the last week and a half didn't go so well, but Contreras stayed hot, and now they take 2 or 3 from the Padres, and a lot of it has to do with Willson Contreras just getting on base every single time he's up the bat.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people on Cubs Twitter in the chat. I mean, hell, even before the show started, I was looking at the YouTube comments and we're like, we got to trade Contreras. And it's like, we can sit here and debate whether the Cubs should trade him at the deadline for prospects or not. And I think, honestly, I do think it will come down to wherever the Cubs are. And who knows? Like I said, I feel like the last 2 weeks against teams like Atlanta, the Dodgers, the White Sox, and the Rays, and whoever else that I'm missing, like that was probably the worst that we'll see out of this roster. I do think that they will be at least more like what we saw in the first 2 weeks of the year.
More competitive.
More competitive. So that means that you're going to find a way to win games, right? And again, I understand that really doesn't mean much for this team and the direction that we're in right now. But if the front office wants to compete in 2023, it just doesn't make any sense to trade Willson Contreras. You're not going to find a better catcher. You're just not. I mean, Miguel Amaya, I know he's going to be coming off Tommy John surgery. There's nothing that's certain with that. You're more likely to hit on an infield or a outfield prospect, more likely, because there's so many of them. You're more likely to hit on those than you are a catcher. That's just my opinion. But to bring it back to today, he was a big part of that series win. And to me, it's I feel like ownership would get a lot of fans back, their trust back if they kept Contreras. I understand why people would want to trade him because they think we should trade him for prospects, but it's not like the Cubs don't have a very good prospect pool already. I don't it's fine to add more, I guess, but are you someone who thinks that this team can't compete in 2023? I think the Cubs can compete in 2023 if they really, do more in free agency next year. And if we see depending on what we see out of guys like Brennan Davis and Caleb Killian when they eventually come up, and others that are in Iowa right now. And again, free agency next offseason. So to me, it's like, why would you trade that? Again, I would get it if you got just an absolute haul, a haul you cannot refuse, and especially, and I think I've said this before, if you got someone who could help the team right away, whether it's second half of this season or next year, and that doesn't necessarily mean help them win, but just be part of the next great Cubs team, right? Be a highly talented prospect that's ready to come up now. That might be the only reason that I would say we should trade him. But it's just I don't think the Cubs are going to have a better catcher. They're not going to.
Right. Yeah.
So why trade that?
That's the crazy balance, right? Sorry, that was the crazy balance of just he's playing so well that it's making it seem like, how can you let this guy go because he's been such a good catcher? He's a very much improved defensive catcher from when he first came in the league. Plus, his bat is as good as it's ever been right now. You're like, how do you not want to re-sign him? And at the same time, it's every game he gets 2 hits. Every time he gets on base 3 times, his value is just skyrocketing. Right. Maybe not skyrocketing, but his value is going up exponentially because that bat is just playing right now. And so it's a very weird dynamic of on one hand, he's playing himself into a really good contract, or he's going to get a good haul if they do trade him. But on the other hand, he's playing so well. It's why wouldn't you keep him around? And if you plan on competing next year, like Cody was alluding to, then he could very well be the catcher that is behind the backstop every day doing that with you.
Yeah, I think, you're really seeing it play out in a very tricky manner, right? Because he is playing well enough that if you're a playoff team or, you have those aspirations and you need a catcher, he's looking mighty good right now, right? And especially if you think that the Cubs are itching to make some moves, right? That's going to be a pretty appealing situation for other front offices. As you said, like, I think in Miguel Amaya, we saw some video of him taking swings recently, but yeah, Cody, like, you're coming off a long injury, a long layoff. Like, there is nothing certain there, right? Like, we haven't seen him get that major league time. I mean, even if he comes back and there's no setbacks, like, you still got a lot of proving it to do, to be, I get in that situation, a bigger part as the starting catcher of in 2023, hopefully a team that is aiming to be more competitive than they are now, right? I mean, at least that's what the front office has been telling us. So where you find the replacement is a tough one. It's going to be a tough spot for Jed because I bet the offers are going to be good. And I think the hang up, at least as I read it, from the outside, is that Willson is going to be 30, I think, in a month. And I don't know what he's looking for long term. And, kind of like the decisions with the other members of the core, if Jed feels like, hey, he wants Real Muto money and I don't want to give it to him, that might be what it comes down to. It's a tough thing to justify. And I think you're right, Cody, like at this, and, they don't have to make decisions based on fan emotion, but at some point it would be nice to keep someone, right? Especially like when they're performing really well, like you don't have a long-term answer, at least a sure thing at catcher, right? Like it was one thing when like Buster Posey retired, and I don't think he's doing that well this year, at least the last I checked, but like the Giants, one of their best prospects was Joey Bart, right? So that's like, okay, we're going to transition to Joey Bart because he's one of our top prospects. He's one of the, bigger touted prospects in baseball. Great. That's, maybe Mamaya several years ago, like not now, like things have really changed. And so you don't have the answer there. So yeah, I think, Cody, I'm with you. Like if the haul is big and, people are calling and demanding that Jed Hoyer, relinquish Willson Contreras, and they're just so far apart on the terms, and Willson wants to be paid until he's 40 as a catcher. Like, I think Jed can justify it, and he's got to make the decisions he think is right for the long-term health of the organization. But when you don't have an immediate answer at catcher, and your catcher right now has a 170 WRC plus and sort of seems to be like putting it together in the way that you always dreamed of at the plate, it's going to be tough to see that go if that's ultimately what they decide to do.
Jack is asking in the comments what happened to Amaya, and I'm not exactly sure. I just know that he had Tommy John surgery. And also the year, like he had the minor league year off because of the pandemic.
Right.
And then like last year, barely played. And then in the off season, right, they announced that he was going to have Tommy John surgery or late last year. So it's like, I mean, again, obviously he's not playing this year, and he's not going to be ready to play anytime soon next year. Like, Yan Gomes is nice. Like, he's a good backup, but do you want him starting every day? Like, and the Cubs will probably go get another, like, if they were to move on from Contreras and get, like, a huge haul, like I was saying, perhaps, they'll go get another catcher and, they'll probably play matchups with him or whatever. But it's just like, to me, if you want to get back to 2015, 2016, 2017 level, you have to have your leaders. And like all those young guys coming up, they're all going to need someone to help them along the way, right? And like Willson Contreras is perfect for that.
Cody, Jason Hayward will still be here for another
year. My God. Don't make me go jump into Lake Michigan. I'm just saying that like he would be like, how Chris Bryant said when he signed with Colorado that like, they had a similar roster to like when he came up and like he wanted to be like the veteran presence. Like that's kind of what I'm alluding at here with Contreras. And the thing is too, is like Contreras is playing better than Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, like all three of them last year. It's like, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they were to trade him, they should get a huge haul. Like, if he plays like this through July, which, you know, admittedly, I don't think he will. He'll probably still play very well, but like to keep playing at this clip, like we're talking about players that are up in like the top players in the league, and Contreras just doesn't have a background of proving that he's been able to do that over a sustained amount of time, except for maybe 2017. But again, like there's just like no reason in my eyes why they shouldn't extend him, or even if they don't trade him at the deadline, to me, that says that they plan to re-sign him. Like, so that would, to me, I would find it to be very exciting to hear about. So, but again, I understand why people want it to happen. But I feel like those same people think the Cubs aren't planning on competing until like 2025. And like, I just don't see that. Not with the prospects that are coming.
Well, and that's not what we've been told, right?
There's
like,
also no reason. There's also no reason the Cubs shouldn't compete.
Exactly, that
by
too.
2025.
But
they're not the Rays. They're not the Rays. They don't have to, you know, trade off their really good players as soon as they become eligible to receive a lot more money. Like, they have the resources over at Wrigley Field to keep a lot of these guys. And that's what, you know, we talked about on the show the other day, Cody. It's just that, sure, the next great Cubs team, whatever, like they did what they did last year. You can't go back and change the past. Mm-hmm. But whenever that next great Cubs team comes, which could be as early as, you know, probably not next year, maybe the year after, as far as when a lot of these high profile prospects are coming up. But whenever that next great Cubs team is, it just should not be, you know, then it should never have to strip everything down to the studs again. That's we've seen it twice in the last decade plus now, where you're getting rid of a lot of, you know, getting a lot of stars, doing trade deadline deals, trying to flip, you know, people for prospects. That just shouldn't need to do that again. You'll have the odd season where you don't compete, you know, like you're just not good, injuries piled up, whatever it is. But you should never have to go out and try to figure out ways to save money because you're not going to compete and you're trying to flip. Like the Cubs should be in a position to compete every single year, just like the Dodgers have been for the last, you know, since I've been born. It seems like
right.
That's what the Cubs could be. If they should be. So going out, you know, operating like the Rays and flipping your best guys as soon as they become worth some money, or flipping just good guys as soon as they start making some money, the Cubs don't ever need to put themselves in that position, I don't think.
Right. And we talked about that a lot on like Monday's pregame show. And it's crazy how, you know, Monday we were all, you know, not just me and anyone else part of CHGO, but like Cubs fans in general, like we're just completely night and day compared to what we are today. And again, I just feel like this team is better than what we saw the last couple of weeks. So yeah, there's still a lot of games to be played. We'll see what happens heading into July. And again, I'm not saying the Cubs are going to turn around and be in the wild card chase, but I do think they'll play similar to like how they did the last 3 days, and could just, again, I feel like that justifies keeping Contreras around. And so, again, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I just hope that the Cubs, like, I know that they haven't even had a conversation with Contreras, and I want to blame the pandemic, or not the pandemic, but the lockout for that. But they could really do themselves a favor if they just at least wait till the offseason with Contreras, because it just doesn't, like, unless you get just an insane call from someone desperate. Like, if you want to talk about Cubs trades, you know, we're talking like, you know, I hate saying his name, but the Addison Russell trade really worked out for the Cubs in terms of winning the World Series. Like, you get something like that, get a top 10 prospect in all of baseball, like they did for Samardzija, like, then I could get it. Like, I would understand. And he wasn't ready at that point, but he was ready the next year, because that trade happened in 14, I believe, and he played in 15. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. But
I think it's one of those things that comes up because of how well he's playing. You know, we know where this team is at. We know how everything is going, and it's going to come up because it's tough to square how you would intend to be better next year by losing a guy playing like this at a premium position that you don't immediately have an answer for. And before we hit our next sponsor break here, I just want to, because people asked, Miguel Amaya only played 23 games at AA in 2021 because of the elbow injury that ultimately led to the Tommy John, and he has not played in a game since June 3rd of 2021. So if you're like counting on that as, the answer here, it would be a big gamble. But as we head into the weekend here shortly, Cody, what are we looking at pick of the week wise over on with our friends at PointsBet?
Oh boy. So I was looking at the NBA lines. It's been kind of a tough week for me. So whenever you're down, I always tell my degenerate friends that, when things aren't great, it's just in time for you to get hot. And I think that my luck is going to turn around tomorrow when the Heat travel to Philadelphia and play the 76ers. 76ers currently right now -2.5. I like that play. I'm going to take that because they're down 3-2 in the series, and there's a lot of pressure on not only Joel Embiid, but James Harden to, get to the next round. I know the Heat are a really good team, but I like the 76ers to keep it rolling. Or not keep it rolling, but like get back on track, because I think Joel Embiid had his worst game of his career. He's got to have a bounce back. He was in MVP race for a reason. So that's my pick of the week. So
pick of the week, awesome. Well, my pick of the week is not a gambling pick at all, but you know what it is? It's AG1. This is a product I use literally every day. Started taking AG1 because I didn't have time. I wanted better gut health, wanted more energy, and I wanted an optimized immune system. Been on it for a few weeks now, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy, but it has a mild tropical taste. I actually look forward to, drinking each morning. It's maybe not the best looking product out there, but the taste is fine. It's you see that like kind of green stuff, or you look at like a shake or something. You're like, oh man, like how can this be, be any good? And you drink it, and it has a mild, exactly, it has a mild tropical taste. So what is it? In just one scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things. You look at me, I'm only 25. I look like I'm 15 or 16. You look at Luke. Luke's ancient, but he looks like he's not a day over 40, right? Because he takes AG1 every single day.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, okay. But when I take it, I get a noticeable boost of energy. So I take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You get that giddy up. Cody, I think you said your girlfriend puts it in shakes every morning and stuff like that. So, you could take it that way, but I could take it, first thing in the morning, empty stomach. It's lifestyle friendly. So whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, gluten, dairy free, I'm not any of those. I like my meats. I like my cheeses. I like my breads. But if that is your lifestyle, if keto, paleo, vegan, gluten free, dairy free, if that's what you need, that's what you do, you're all good with AG1. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance for less than $3 a day. It's recommended by professional athletes and has more than 7,000 5-star reviews. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All righty. So as we, get closer to wrapping up here in our last segment, want to focus on some of the pitching. And I think, we saw something on Wednesday that a lot of people had clamored for, and wanted to see Keegan Thompson get a start. He ends up going 4 innings, allows 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. He does give up the 1 homer in the game. But all in all, like at least from my perspective, looked to be attacking pretty similarly to the way that he was coming out of the pen. Obviously, it wasn't necessarily too much of a longer outing than we've seen from him at other times. 61 pitches. At this point, most of his outings have been lengthier ones, but he used 5 of his pitches, at least looking at the Baseball Savant StatCast data. 4-seam fastball, cutter, curveball, sinker, changeup. In that last inning of work there, as he was getting towards the end of the day, still sitting around 94 with his fastball. We've seen him touch a little higher, but in general, it didn't look like he was necessarily taking too much off. The stuff he was working with didn't get as many whiffs as we had seen in some of those outings out of the pen. But all in all, I mean, I thought this was a solid outing in a spot that, he didn't really know. Obviously, the Cubs are dealing with some stuff in the rotation. He didn't really know that this was going to be the spot. But what did you Ryan, what did you see today out of Keegan Thompson? Did you, obviously the Cubs needed it, but I think most of us were probably in the camp of he's a pretty elite weapon out of the pen. So maybe let's not be in too much of a rush to change that. But what did you think of the start here on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even know. I wonder if he knew prior to today that he was starting this game, but we didn't know. Cubs hadn't announced anything. Didn't put it in the game notes or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think when you looked at it, you kind of needed Keegan to get 4 innings, right? You needed Keegan 4 innings, which I think is the most he's thrown out of the pen at all this year. If he could get you 4 innings, put you in a position to win. That's a successful first start of the season, especially considering this team is pretty depleted, right? It's a lot of injuries, bullpen starters, whatever it is, just in the last few days or so, and so that's kind of the main reason why Keegan Thompson was even starting in that position in the first place. But you needed 4 innings. If he could have gotten that 5th, would have probably been ideal, but 4 innings for sure. Only gave up 2 runs. So you look at that outing and it's not as dominant as he's looked in this past, out of the bullpen. You talked about his first month of the season. He was it looked like no one could touch him, right? And you mentioned it, Corey, the whiff rate was lower today than it has been during the season. He wasn't getting a bunch of swings and misses. I think he only had the 1 or 2 strikeouts. But he just was effective and, limited damage. You got that 1 double play, I want to say. That just kind of kept things in order, and he did what he needed to do to get 4 innings and keep the damage to a minimum, and that's was able to hand it off to the Chris Martin, Scott Efros. Obviously later on was unbelievable. Michael Givens had a tough inning, and then Rowick shut things down. But those are 4 guys that if your pitcher can get you to the back end of the innings and you can go to a Chris Martin or a Scott Efros or Michael Givens or Rowick, you probably feel at least somewhat confident with all 4 of them. I know Scott Efros is as soon as he goes in, you're like, okay, we're going to get a 1-2-3 inning here. Right. But if you can get to that back end of the bullpen without needing another long reliever going in the middle innings, that's a successful day. And so I guess that's, long-winded answer, but basically Keegan Thompson was not dominant, but he was effective and did what needed to be done to put the Cubs in the position to get this W, which ultimately happened.
Right. Weirdly enough, I don't know who at PointsBet knew this, but I learned that Keegan Thompson was starting for the Cubs today because I logged on to PointsBet, because it was before the lineup came out or anything, and it said on PointsBet under the Cubs and Padres game that Keegan Thompson was starting for the Cubs, and I was like, Cubs money line, bang, because I knew, or I felt, that Thompson was going to go out there and give us 3 or 4 strong innings, and if the Cubs could get a lead early like they had been in 3 of the last 4 games, that they'll be in position to win the game. And that's kind of like what we saw today. I know he kind of struggled in those first couple innings with a lot of base runners and everything, and a few people in my Twitter mentions, of course, that were like, yeah, this guy, he should be a bullpen guy, blah, 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 this, blah, blah, that. And I was like, to me, I think the only reason he started today is because Marcus Stroman's on the IL with, we assume, COVID or something like that, because they won't tell us what it is. So, yeah, do I think Thompson can get some starts later in the year? Yeah, but I'm good with him sticking in the role that he has been in, but he definitely showed up today and did exactly what the Cubs needed, which was, I thought, 4 innings tops, and he gave them a chance to win. And then the Cubs offense showed up and kept hitting like they did the last 2 days. So, you gave up that homer to Luke Voit, which I don't understand. Luke Voit was hitting like 136 coming into this game, and then he turned into God for 9 innings today, and it is what it is. But he definitely shows a presence on the mound. Like when he's on the mound, you can like feel it through the TV. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but you can like feel it, that he has like a confidence out there that I didn't see last year. And that's what's been the most impressive thing to me watching him pitch this year. Maybe my take 3 weeks ago or whatever it was about him being like Josh Hader type bullpen arm might be a little bit of a stretch, but he was pitching like that in those first 16 innings or whatever. He was lights out. He's definitely been hit on a little bit more in the last couple appearances, and teams are, I guess you could say, offenses or scouting reports are adjusting to what he's doing this year, and for the most part he's still getting it done. He did make some guys look pretty bad today. He also gave up some hits and gave up some runs. So, but again, I think this is a good start to, what could perhaps be down the line if you were to put him into the starting rotation. But again, I think the Cubs are just going to keep him in the bullpen. I will be completely okay if they keep him in the bullpen.
Yeah. I think that's the best spot
I think that this series, obviously this was Wade Miley's first start, so he only goes 3 innings. He'll get there, right? We didn't expect too much in terms of length from him in this second game on Tuesday. But I think, maybe this is somewhat of a vision of the future, right? And maybe how you intended this rotation to go once Marcus Stroman gets back, once Wade Miley is able to, start delivering quality starts, which he certainly did last year and you expect him to do. Kyle Hendricks was phenomenal on Monday. Wade Miley, when he gets stretched out, I think will also be delivering those starts. And when you need to fill things in, right, like Keegan Thompson's ready to step up and do it. And this bullpen, Gibbons had a rough outing today, but he's been solid on the year. Part of the issue when you have multiple, back-to-back games where you need to use a total of I think it was 12 pitchers or something like that. Somebody's probably going to have a bad outing in there. You're just playing with, kind of the percentages at that point. But we've seen this bullpen do a really good job on the whole this year. And I think, that's what you hope going forward. Hendricks, Miley, Stroman, solid, your rocks, right? You lean on them to give you length and get you quality starts. And then you've got this staff behind them that if you have to piece together a several pitcher outing or something like that, you've got the pieces to do it. And I think it's a tough role for Keegan Thompson, not always knowing exactly what you're doing. And I'm sure he would maybe prefer to be a starter. I don't know if he, has spoken on that, Ryan. It may be more comfortable, but at the end of the day, if you're talking about value, right? He's going to be up there in terms of value to a team when you're looking at the role that he is playing, filling in starts, cleaning up messes out of the bullpen, being able to stabilize things if a starter does go short instead of using, everybody else out of the bullpen. It's extremely valuable. And so I know some people were really clamoring for him to get an opportunity like we saw on Wednesday, but I'm with you guys. Whatever role he's asked to play, he's doing it and he's doing it well. And I think at that point, you kind of just leave well enough alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to touch on that one thing, no, Keegan Thompson, we assume that he would like to start. He was built up in the spring as a starter. Every time we ask him, he's just like, I'm not worried about that right now. I'm just worried about doing my job, that kind of stuff.
Good teammate.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I know David Ross. I've talked to Tommy Hotovy too about it, and they really like him in that role for the reasons that you said, Corey. Is that when you had, especially early in the season, when we knew guys weren't built up and we knew there was going to need to be someone that could give you some length out of the bullpen, that was Keegan. And we talked to Ross a couple weeks back, and he mentioned how the long reliever, the long guy in the bullpen, when he was coming up, that role was kind of like, hey, we're getting killed or we're up by so much, we just need someone to eat up some innings. It was a misused option in the bullpen. Whereas Keegan Thompson, as we could see, has become a guy that Ross can go to with, a runner in scoring position, 2 outs in the inning. They need an out, and then like 3 more innings after that, right? Like Keegan Thompson has done that, and we know that he can. So whether he's starting or pitching out of the bullpen, he's been successful and he does his job. And when he goes out there, you're not, last year when he was starting, that was his learning experience. Now he has his position in the bullpen where it's been really, really good, and he looks confident, he looks dominant. Today, again, like I said, was not as dominant as he looked out of the bullpen, but he did his job, and that's all you can really ask for. So moving forward, Cody, you alluded to it. Me and Luke have been on this for the last couple of weeks, but just like we like him out of the bullpen. We know the Cubs like him out of the bullpen. We like seeing him out of the bullpen, and we think that's right now. He's succeeding so much, you don't mess with that unless you absolutely need to, like you did today. Ross mentioned yesterday they were desperate for pitching. That's kind of partially why Wade Miley came up, is like we needed starting pitching, and he did what he had to do to help us kind of get us through that. Same thing goes for Keegan Thompson. Like, yeah, you like him out of the bullpen, but you need a starter today. You needed one badly. Keegan Thompson stepped up and did that.
The only time where I've been like, why didn't we just start Keegan Thompson, was in the doubleheader against the Dodgers last weekend.
Night, yeah.
Whenever they started Daniel Norris, he had a clean first inning and then walked the bases loaded in the second inning. And then they brought in Keegan Thompson to try and get out of the jam, in which, considering how they played that weekend, I mean, that was the second game of the 3, but you know what I mean? Like, the way that they brought Thompson in the second inning, it's just kind of like, why don't you just start him? Like, in that situation, like, why didn't you just start him? And it looks like they learned from that mistake, because I was afraid they were going to do the same thing today and start someone like Scott Efros in the first inning and hope and pray he can give you 2 and then bring in Thompson. And it's just like, if you can get 2 or 3 innings out of like your, if you're going to do a bullpen game like they did today, like, then it would make sense to bring Thompson in for the middle innings. But clearly they did, like, because of injuries and everything, they had to go with Thompson to start today. And that's why I think, like, a lot of people really think that he's going to be like a starter now, or at least in line for it. I just don't see it. Like, if Stroman can't make his next start, then I could see Thompson starting again then. But like, if Stroman is able to come back for his next start soon, which, I mean, again, he hasn't started since 2 Sundays ago, then, I don't see Thompson getting another start for the foreseeable future, unless there's another injury.
I think the best way to think about Keegan Thompson is that he may not be a starter. You don't have to call him a traditional reliever either. He's an out-getter. That's what he's doing. However many outs they need, however many outs he can do that day, that's what he's going out and doing. He's got a 1.67 ERA. Call him whatever you want. The dude's getting outs, and he's getting a lot of them. So one last quick thing, and then we should just look ahead to this weekend, and then we'll sign off here. I just want to give credit where credit is due. Alfonso Rivas, man. What a clutch at bat that was in the game today. He only starts 2 of these games. Went 1 for 4 in the game on Tuesday, and then 1 for 3 in the game on Wednesday. But those 2 RBIs were game-winning RBIs in this game on Wednesday. And I so enjoy watching his plate appearances. He looks so like calm and within his approach and like his understanding of the strike zone and what he's looking for. It's really impressive for a guy who's, only getting his time in the major leagues, for a second year. Like, he played a little bit last year, but this is a 25-year-old who does not have a ton of major league experience, who routinely is putting together plate appearances that look like a guy that's been around the block a lot more than that. And you saw the clutch gene a little bit on Wednesday too.
Yeah, shout out to the Oakland Athletics and Tony Kemp. Like, that's looking good for the Cubs right now, right? No, I'm glad he's getting consistent at bats, right? Like, we were screaming it from from the Bird app and wherever else you were able to vent about getting Rivas more at bats, and I like him there in that 5-hole. I was kind of on board for the whole leading off thing, but when Contreras is hitting as well as he is, like, and even Ortega's started to hit a little bit. He's had 2 hits in consecutive games now, like, and I understand why Ortega's at the top of the lineup. He like has a 12% walk rate. Like, he's getting on base. You look at the batting average and the OPS and you're like, why is this guy in the lineup? And then you look at the walk rate and you're like, okay, it kind of makes sense why he's there. Rivas, he's making noise. He's making a plea to the Cubs to be like, hey, I'm part of what's next. And it's just great to see, because it's not like he was some top tier prospect or anything like that. He's playing well. It'll be interesting to see how, the league kind of adjusts to him, because it's not like there's a ton of stats out there on him. So, but at the same time, though, like, the thing that was great about that play appearance today that's got the 2 RBIs is just like, he worked that at bat. Like, that was like, I don't think you would have wanted anyone else at the plate at that time that's in the Cubs lineup right now, except for maybe Contreras, right? But like, you knew that he was going to put the ball in play, and you knew that he was going to hit it hard somewhere, because the way that he's been playing lately. So it's exciting stuff. And again, what the season's all about is just finding pieces that are finding answers, exploring, as Luke likes to keep saying. And I am excited to see how he plays over the next couple months, and see how he, I guess, in a way, blossoms with this team. Because if you can find guys that right away going into next year that they're going to be in the lineup, then that just makes your offseason that much easier. So
and Ryan too, like, we also saw, obviously, we've raved about him at the plate, but you saw in this series too, we were talking about defense, especially if Nico's out. He made some really nice plays. I know Rick Sutcliffe was on these calls for a lot of these for these games in San Diego, and I know there was one last night that he definitely saved a run by knocking the ball down. It was headed down the line. And I mean, he just looks really good over there. There's been a couple of tough, like, PFP kind of balls back to the mound where it's been like a little confusing, but he's composed. He's making the plays. He looks really nice over there.
Yeah, no, he, and the defense has looked good. Again, we're going to say the word small sample size, the phrase small sample size again, but he looks good over there at first base. But then going back to the bat, it's just like, Frank was sent down. Like, what were you going to do if Frank had stayed in AAA? What would you have done at first base? I think Rivas has earned the right to play every day at first base, regardless of who the matchup is. As far as the pitcher, if he's facing a lefty, give him a chance to see what he could do against the lefty, right? Just based on the way he's played both sides of the ball, I think he's earned the shot to play every single day. Again, we know Ross likes to play the matchups. We've seen it. So it will obviously be a work in progress, and we'll kind of see where this goes the next week or so. But Rivas over there at first base, he looked the part. Is he the first baseman of the future? Who knows? But that's why you take this season. We're going to explore it, right, Cody? Like, you take this season, you give these guys a shot, you give these guys extended shots to see what they could do, so that when you get to 2023, 2024, you've kind of got some more answers. Before we wrap up, Corey, I mean, we got to mention Scott Efros. I bet, I think, who was it, Alfaro? The sinkers, man. Oh, man. The horizontal movement on those. He struck out on a pitch that hit him, Corey.
Hit him. And he got, I think, a couple swings like that. The guy that came up after, I think, did that too. Not that
Pitching
hit him,
Ninja was having a day.
The Pitching Ninja is all over Scott Efros. And I mean, you can see it. So, he pitched, he finished that Hendricks game on Monday night. So obviously just the third of an inning there, getting the out. But then back there again on Wednesday for a full inning. He does give up 2 hits, but, we all saw the quality of those hits and whether they were deserving. Defense didn't help him out. Also a blooper, that fell in there with Happ playing a little further back, I guess. But, gets 2 strikeouts, and he's just nasty, man. I mean, a 1.3 ERA, this is almost a month and a half into the season. Like, this is not, just a couple outings from Scott Efros. He's been going out there pretty routinely, and he looks filthy. And you see it when, you get swings like that, like you guys mentioned, the strikeout on the ball that hit, it was Alfaro, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's, when you're getting the results and you're getting such ugly swings like that, it's, it's really easy to just watch and go, yeah, this guy's nasty. Like clearly the results are there and guys are not picking the ball up when they see him. So that's, we're talking about, finding answers. And I think it's true for Alfonso Rivas, just as it is Scott Effross. These are guys you're giving a chance to. And whether Scott Effross is the closer of the future or Alfonso Rivas is your starting first baseman going forward, that's not necessarily the most important thing. As long as they can play a role, as long as they've got a spot, and you can give innings to Scott Effross in the future, high leverage innings. You can give innings at first base and plate appearances to Alfonso Rivas. You don't have to be finding the next Hall of Famer for the Cubs. You just got to find guys that can help you build out this roster. And we've seen it in the past. You can go through any number of names that we're not going to mention on this show, but like the Cubs have had some terrible depth in years past, in years that they were really good. The bottom of that bench or the bottom of the bullpen was not good. And if you can find guys to fill those roles going forward, as you guys alluded to, it makes Jed Hoyer's job a lot easier when you go to attack these off seasons. Maybe you need a big time bat or some more slugging, but if you can limit the amount of players you need to find to do that, that's a big success. And it's not where we want to be as fans and as an organization. But the more of those answers that we can find, the better. And the sooner we see the next great Cubs team, right?
Right. Yeah. I wish Brendan would have been able to be on this show to talk about Scott Effross, because I got nothing except for he was just nasty, and he's been nasty. He's our own freaking version of Chad Bradford. That's all I can really say to you guys in terms of what I think about Scott Effross. The dude completely changes arm angle or whatever, right? In the pitch lab, as the Cubs call it. Yeah. And it's fun to see the Cubs develop homegrown pitching, man. It's awesome. It's very fun to watch. And so, and that's why it brings me back to what I was saying earlier about how this team's going to compete before 2025. They got a ton of guys in this farm system right now who a lot, or some might not have the name like Brennan Davis or even Caleb Killian, but they're going to have a part in the next great Cubs team. And it's just going to be fun to watch and see them all play out. Yes, they need to spend more. Yes, we should hold our front office and ownership accountable, but the Cubs are going to compete sooner rather than later. And anyone who really doesn't think so otherwise has not been paying attention to what they've been doing, not only, when it comes to drafting, but just just the pitch lab and how they've developed certain guys that we have talked about over and over and stuff like that. So, Scott Effross is just a great example that even though they drafted him, he was drafted in 2015, he's been in the system for a while. And he's made himself put in the talk of one of the Cubs' top high leverage relievers.
Absolutely.
He definitely will be one after the trade deadline if they do in fact sell off a ton of guys, especially in the bullpen.
They didn't draft Rowan Wick, obviously, but he's another one out there today. 2 innings of work. David Ross sent him back out there to finish this one off. 2 strikeouts in this game. Just 2 hits in those 2 innings, no runs, and sitting in the mid upper 90s, which is always good. That's when he's at his best. And again, they didn't draft him, but they brought him, through the upper levels of their system. And here he is back out there getting big outs. And with David Robertson out for now, Rowan Wick getting those opportunities. So it's good to see, Givens has been good, but in this game, you saw Chris Martin and Michael Givens, 2 guys that they brought in, older free agents. And then you also saw 2 guys that are kind of more a product of the Cubs' actual infrastructure and system in Scott Effross and Rowan Wick. So just nice to see that kind of mix, especially following Keegan Thompson, who, of course, is one of the Cubs' own products. But before we sign off here, just want to look real quickly at this series. Obviously, the Cubs are off on Thursday. You guys will be back on the pod tomorrow afternoon, yeah?
Ooh, I will not be.
I will be.
Cody and Luke. Okay.
Cody, Luke, and someone else maybe.
And so, of course, tune in to that tomorrow afternoon to get your Cubs fix while they are off. And then they start a 3-game set on Friday night against Arizona. It will be an 8:40 start on Friday, 7:10 on Saturday, and then 3:10 in the afternoon on Sunday. We've got a TBD so far for the Cubs on Saturday and Sunday in terms of their pitching matchup. Saturday should be tough facing Zach Gallen, who has a sub-1 ERA. That is pretty good. But on Friday, listen, I'm just telling you guys, it's Drew Smiley against Zach Davies. I don't care if the Cubs go on to lose 90-plus games in this season. If they lose to Zach Davies after the games I sat through at Wrigley Field last year, you're gonna get like a vintage Cody rant from me on Sunday when I'm back on with Brendan. I will be inconsolable if they cannot figure out a way to hit Zach Davies, who's got a 3.34 ERA. So he's been okay for the Diamondbacks so far. But guys, I'm not gonna tolerate it. They have got to score some runs on Friday. That's all I ask.
They owe us that because they can't fuck around and find a way to beat Jose Quintana. So,
right,
yes, they can't
be doing this to us. Come on.
They owe us to put a 5 spot on Zach Davies.
Yeah. Arizona's sneaky 17-15. Didn't expect that, but it should be a fun series. I'll be in good old Las Vegas, so I won't be too far from Phoenix. Maybe I can hear Willson crack another home run while I'm there. But yeah. I'll catch you guys maybe Sunday, Monday. We'll see how it goes. And I'm with you. I'm not like going to be heartbroken if they don't hit Zach Davies, but I'm like just seeing what we saw from Zach Davies last year. It's like if they don't, that's kind of
So
like,
it'd be a huge drop off after what we saw against this really talented starting rotation for the Padres.
Yeah, but the baseball thing, right? The quirky baseball thing that would happen is they'll lose to Zach Davies, but they'll beat Gallen. Right? Galen's undefeated. He's got a 0.9 ERA. Cubs will touch him up, but they'll struggle against it. That just would be the thing.
That's how it goes.
That would happen. And we'll be frustrated on Friday and then be like, oh, of course, they hung a crooked number on this guy who's been, otherwise unhittable. But, let's just keep this rolling, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're coming off a bad stretch. It's never good when you're in May and we're celebrating our first series win since the beginning of the season against the Brewers, right. From opening weekend. But this is a good series, tough team to play on the road, tough place to play. Take it into Arizona. Like we're just taking things day by day, series by series. Hopefully Nico's back soon. Hopefully get Marcus Stroman back soon. And we can kind of go from there. But that's
before we get out of here, I got one thing.
Hit me.
Mainly related to what you just said, and then another thing. So one guy in the comments, I think it was Jackie, asked us how we felt about Rick Sutcliffe in the booth, and I just want to say that I love Rick Sutcliffe in the booth. Not that I don't like JD, but I've really enjoyed listening to Sutcliffe, not only because of his like insight, but also I just love his energy. Like, let's be real. He's like he's trying to like will the Cubs to wins when he's in the booth. And you know what? Like whether you like the homers or not, like I respect it. It's Marquee Sports Network. We should be homers in the booth. I don't care. It's a nice little mix with Boog because Boog is obviously like he's very much kind of just like in his own little world.
Consummate professional.
I saw someone tweeted like after that whole thing on the baseballs, and someone tweeted out, I was like, why is Sut so adamant about Boog grabbing his balls or something, like you're feeling how hard his balls are, something like that. So I'm like that made me laugh. No, they're good. They're all good up there.
I was all over the place. I had the Padres feed today. I was listening to Pat and Ron, I think, for one of these games. But I thought it was, a good broadcast. He and Boog had, a nice little chemistry. I think I'm a big JD guy, so I do always miss JD when he's not there. But I think on some of the stuff with Sut, like he's I think a little. Brutally honest at times, which I think is fair and good.
He was
as long as it's
definitely very honest about the defense. And
it's not in a way that I felt was like, crossing a line, like too critical or like harsh from the booth. I thought, he was bringing a little kind of like voice of the fan a little bit, right? Like everybody's kind of frustrated with some of this stuff, and he was, willing to call it out. But yeah, I think that's what we have for you on this edition of the CHGO Cubs podcast.
Long one.
Again, yeah, we got going. Luke wasn't here to keep us on time. This is what happens when I'm allowed to host a larger group, as things get really off the rails here. But thank you to our wonderful producer Steven here for sticking with us. As always, again, tune in on Thursday for Cody and Luke on the off day podcast, and then on Friday I'll get going with pre and post for this Diamondback series. Brendan and I will be back with you with a Diamondback series recap late Sunday night or early Monday morning. And then, of course, we appreciate your support for everything going on at CHGO, podcasts and live shows, every team, every day, post-game shows, and all of Ryan's premium written content for members. When you sign up at allchgo.com. You get a free shirt and access to the members-only Discord when you sign up, again, at allchgo.com. Thank you for listening and joining us live. If you're here or listening to us on the podcast platforms, CHGO Cubs podcast, we appreciate your 5-star reviews and comments. And as always, go Cubs.